Please, yes, sir. You're next.
Hi, Mr. Chouinard. My name's Tucker Olson, and I was wondering, as far as I understand, you started out making ice picks and better climbing gear than what was currently out there.
Yeah.
But what I'm wondering is, when did you, and what made you realize that your company and your business that you're going through was going to turn into a lot more than just you manufacturing a few better things?
I never did.
It just kind of rolled on.
Yeah, I kind of live in the moment, and which drives my wife crazy because she has a hard time getting me to plan anything. So I just have grown this business day by day. I mean, I don't have any plan on how big this thing's going to be or anything like that. It's just my own personality. I mean, I look at my company as an experiment. Like I said, I never wanted to be a businessman. So I just happened to be a craftsman that had good ideas for every product I looked at. I could figure out how to make it better. And so I kind of backdoored business, but I'm very pessimistic about the fate of the planet. And so I look at my company as an experiment. It tries to put into practice what all the great thinkers around the world are saying that we have to do to save the civilization and to save this planet and to save, 30% of the world species from going extinct in the next 50 years. And so I can do whatever I want with this company because I kind of like a samurai. They say if you wanted to be a samurai, you can't be afraid of dying. Well, I'm not afraid of losing this business. I could walk away from it, and I got another life. So I'm not a public corporation, so I can take all the risk and then prove that it's good business, and then influence other companies. Like, we can switch over to all our cotton to organically grown cotton when there was no one else doing it, and then prove that it's good. And now, the Gap and Walmart and Nike and God, hundreds of companies now are using organically grown cotton. And that's the reason I'm in business. And so I love breaking the rules of business.
So as a would-be or new entrepreneur, where does one start the process of being not only socially responsible, but being in tune with how to become more environmentally aware of these small kinds of incremental changes?
Well, that's an easy question. It's a matter of education. You just have to educate yourself. That's what I told the Walmart people. I said, you have no idea what goes on. You're selling Twinkies, and that ingredient list is 40 ingredients in the Twinkies. You have to know, you're going to have to know what every one of those ingredients means. You're going to have to educate yourself. And I'm convinced that most of the damage caused to our planet by businesses and consumers and stuff is just caused by leading an unexamined life. I mean, if you want to feed your family healthy foods, you can't just go to Safeway and buy vegetables. I mean, some of those vegetables could come from Mexico where they still use DDT, and in fact, non-organically grown vegetables now have been proven that they have 70% less nutrients. 70%, trace minerals and vitamins and all of that. People are eating more, but they're starving themselves to death. So, you gotta know the farmer. You gotta go to farmers markets. It's not easy. You gotta know where your meat comes from. And it's the same thing with being in business. We didn't know how to make clothes when we first asked the question, what should we be making clothing out of it? We didn't know. We thought, 100% pure cotton would be the nicest thing because it's all farmed and it's not made out of petroleum. But we found out that of all the fibers to make clothing, the worst by far was 100% pure cotton. And we started looking into that. We started taking tours in the Central Valley here and looking at cotton farms, and my God, it was a wasteland out there. There's nothing alive. There's no bugs, no beetles, there's no weeds, just cotton fields. And then they pour so much chemicals. Cotton accounts for 25% of the world's pesticide use, even though it occupies 3% of the world's farmland. And then there's these big lakes out there in the Central Valley, because there's no rivers that go to the ocean from the Central Valley. The Kern River just goes underground. And so they're pouring tons and tons of water on these fields. They're salinating the fields. There's millions of acres in the Central Valley that are all salinated, never be able to grow anything again. And then they have these big sumps where the water comes up, and they hire guys with shotguns to scare the birds away, the waterfowl, because if they ingest that water, they'll have chicks with 3 beaks and 4 legs. And I mean, I came back from those tours and I said, okay, it's like the guy coming back from Cambodia, the landmines. I said, I don't want to be in business if I have to make clothing out of industrially grown cotton. So then that's when we switched over to organically grown. But that was just asking one question. You got to keep asking enough questions till you get finally some results. And then you got to ask, well, what are we going to dye this stuff with? Are dyes toxic? There are no books written when we looked into this. Well, there's different dyes for cotton, there's different dyes for polyester, different dyes for nylon. So we asked around, we found out, yeah, most dyes are really toxic. But there's some dyes you can buy from Germany that are non-toxic, but some colors are still toxic. So, when you educate yourself, you're left with choices, right? Mm-hmm. The uneducated person doesn't have very many choices in his life. And so, okay, so now we can choose to buy these West German dyes and not do certain colors. Well, but where is it going to be dyed? Well, even though we're using non-toxic dyes, it still could be polluting streams. Mm-hmm. And in fact, we found out that our flannel shirts are all dyed on one river in Portugal, and there's all these dye houses, and they're just pulling in water. They dye their stuff, and there's big outfalls going into the river. By the time the river gets near the ocean, the river is jet black. This big river is jet black. And so the last dye house had to buy all this expensive cleaning machinery, and they pull in the water, they clean it, then they dye, then they run it through the machinery again, and so their outfall is pure water. Great, now we know. We're going to dye in this factory. Before, I just call a fabric supplier and say, hey, give me 10,000 yards of shirting fabric in blue and red. And I was leading a non-examined life in business. And, it gets to be a pain in the ass, let me tell you. But you can sleep at night, which is really pretty good feeling. And you can feel like you're part of the solution rather than the problem. I think, the idea of endless resources, that there's no end to resources, that's what you study in economics, is a false one. And the idea that we can shop ourselves out of this hole that we're in right now is also a false idea. We're all going to have to consume less. And that's what we tell our customers, in fact. We say, instead of owning a pair of shorts to play volleyball in, and a pair of shorts to surf in, and a pair of shorts to run in, and a pair of shorts to play tennis in, and a pair of, just buy one pair of shorts. And I can